Good day, everybody. It's Coach Jackson, and today we're going to look at the third section of Unit 2. This is going to be how to find real zeros of functions. And the first thing we need to do is review long division, and then I need to show you how to do synthetic division. You might have already been exposed to this in Math 3. We're not going to spend a lot of time on long division. We'll spend more time on synthetic. So I'll go through a few examples in long division. First one's already worked out for you, and I'm going to run through it with you. So we have 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus x minus 8, and we want to divide by x minus 3. So what we start with first is we look at the x in the divisor, and we say how many times will x go into 2x to the third? What can we multiply x by to get 2x to the third? Well, we can multiply by 2x squared. So 2x squared times x gives us 2x cubed. 2x squared times negative 3 gives us negative 6x squared. Put it in parentheses and we subtract. Remember, long division, we subtract. Synthetic division, we're going to be adding. So if I subtract, you know you're right if the first two cancel each other out. You get 0. That's what you want. Okay? Negative 5 minus a negative 6, x squared is really negative 5 plus 6. That's a 1x squared. And I bring down my next term. And I start the process over. What can I multiply x by to get x squared? Well, I can multiply by x. So I do that. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Put it in parentheses and I subtract. The x squareds cancel out. X minus a negative 3x is 4x. I bring down my negative 8. Start the process over. What can I multiply by x to get me 4x? I can multiply by 4. So I do. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. I put it in parentheses and I subtract. When I do that, I have a remainder of 4 because the 4x's cancel each other out. If I have a remainder of 4, I write it as 4 divided by whatever the divisor was out here. 4 divided by x minus 3. Okay. Probably been a while since you've done that, so we're going to practice on this one. What you have to remember is when you write these problems down, you got to make sure that if you don't have one term in here, like if you don't have any x's or you don't have any x squareds, you still have to write 0 of that term. Here we've got cubes, squares, x's, and a constant, so we're good on all of these. We don't need to put in any placeholders. I think I've got an example in the next one that shows us that. So why don't you pause the video and try this one on your own, and when you're finished with it, come back to the video and we'll go over it. So go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, let's take a look at this one. I need to know what can I multiply x by to get 3x cubed. Well, I can multiply by 3x squared. And I write it above my x squared column. And I multiply. 3x squared times x is 3x cubed. 3x squared times negative 2 is negative 6x squared. Put it in parentheses and I subtract. These two cancel each other out. I've got a -1 plus 6. That's going to be a 5, I believe. 5x squared. And I bring down my 2x. And I start the process over. What can I multiply x by to get 5x squared? Well, I can multiply by 5x. And I do that. 5x times x, 5x squared. 5x times -2 is -10x. I put it in parentheses and I subtract. These two should cancel out. 5x squared minus 5x squared is 0. 2 minus a -10 is the same thing as 2 plus 10. I should get a 12x. And I bring down my -3. And I start the process over. What do I multiply x by to get 12x? I can multiply by 12. So I do that, and I get 12x minus 24. Put it in parentheses and subtract. So -3 plus a 24 is 21. And I write that as my remainder, 21 divided by x minus 2. Okay. Sure you did fine on that one. Let's move on to the next one. All right, here's one where we're going to have to put in a placeholder. Notice that they don't have any x terms. There's no x terms, so we're going to have to put one in there. So I got 2x plus 1. I've got 4x cubed plus 2x squared plus 0x's plus 8. Okay. So go ahead and pause the video. Try this one on your own. When you're finished, come back and play the video and we'll go over it. Okay, let's see how we did on this one. What can I multiply 2x by to get 4x cubed? Well, I can multiply by 2x squared. So I'm going to do that. 2x squared times 2x is 4x cubed. 2x squared times 1 is 2x. Oops, I'm writing in the wrong spot. Okay, we got 4x cubed, and we got 2x squared. And I'm going to subtract. Okay. That gets me 0. And 2x squared minus 2x squared gets me 0. I bring down my 0x. What can I multiply 2x by to get 0? It'd be 0, so I'm not going to write anything else there. Bring down my plus 8. There's nothing I can do there. So this is going to be a remainder of 8. Remainder of 8 divided by 2x plus 1. So that ended up being pretty short. All right. This one you would have a lot of placeholders. I'm going to show you how to set it up. So I've got x to the 6th. I've got 0x to the 5th. I've got 0x to the 4th. I've got 0x to the 3rd. I've got 0x squareds. I've got 0x's. And I have a plus 8. So that's how you would set that one up and do the same thing that we've done on the last 3. Okay. Here on this one, you're dividing by x plus 1 all squared. You need to multiply that out. And we're going to divide it into x to the 5th plus 0x to the 4th plus 0x to the 3rd plus 0x squared plus 0x. plus 0. Do the math. Should be a short answer on that one. All right, let's look at synthetic division. Most people who have done long division and then start synthetic division like it much better because it's quicker and easier. The only thing you have to remember is it's set up differently. To set this up synthetically, we're going to take the divisor and set it equal to 0 and solve. This is the number we're going to start our division with. So we write it out here, -2. And I'm going to put a little box like that around it. And then all I'm going to use are my coefficients. I don't need to write any of the x's. That's another reason the students like it better. There's no letters. Okay. So I'm going to write my 4, I'm going to write my -2, my -1, my 5, and my -2. Same thing applies here. If you don't have something of a term, you're going to have to put a 0 in its place. I draw my line. I'm going to bring down the first number. Okay? And from there, I'm going to multiply and add. Multiply -2 times 4, I get -8, and I add. And I repeat the process. -2 times -10 is 20. I add. -2 times 19 is -38, and I add. -2 times -33 is 66, and I add. So I'm dividing by an x into an x to the 4th. So this is going to start as an x to the 3rd. Remainder is 64 over x plus 2. Okay, so that's synthetic division, and we're going to practice a few more on this. Synthetic can help you a lot in determining the zeros of a function, and that's why we do it in this section. All right, let's look at this one. So I'm going to start dividing with a 4. I'm going to bring down my coefficients. I do not have any x to the 3rd, so I put a 0. I do not have any x to the squares or to the 2nd, put down a 0. I have 8 x's and I have a -2. Generally, this is where the students make the mistakes. They forget to put the 0 as a placeholder. Okay? So I have 0x to the 3rd, 0x squareds, bring down my 5, and I'm going to multiply and add all the way through. 4 times 5, 20, and I add. 4 times 20, 80, and I add. 4 times 80, 320, and I add. And then 4 times 328. I can't do that math. 4 eighths is 32, carry my 3, 2 times 4 is 8, 9, 10, 11, carry my 1, 13, 12. And I add, get a remainder of 13, 10. So I divided with an exponent of 1 into an exponent of 4. That's going to leave me an exponent of a 3. And a remainder of 1310 over x minus 4. All right. Let's see if we can do the next one. So I want to take the 2x plus 1, set it equal to 0, and solve. So my number to start dividing with is -1/2. Not the worst fraction you could be using. Okay? I'm going to write down my coefficients. 4x to the thirds, -2x squareds. I have 0 x's, and I have 8 as a constant. Don't forget those 0 placeholders. Bring down my 4, and I'm going to multiply. Negative times positive is a negative. What's half of 4? -2, and I add. -1/2 times -4 is a +2, and I add. -1/2 of 2 is a -1, and I add. This should be 4x squared minus 4x plus 2 plus 7 over 2x plus 1. Okay. All right. Here's how we use synthetic division. There is a remainder theorem that says if a polynomial is divided by x minus some number, then the remainder is equal to f of that number. Here's what all that says. I've got a function, and I'm going to do some synthetic division to find f of 1. So this is my x. Okay? That's the number I'm going to use to start my division. Okay? I have a 1x cubed, a -2x squared, a -4x, and a 1 as a constant. Those are my numbers I'm going to use in my synthetic division. So when I do the math, bring down my 1. 1 times 1 is 1, and I add. 1 times -1 is -1, I add. 1 times -5 is -5, and I add. And I get a remainder. That remainder is my answer. That remainder is -4. Now, I'll let you copy that down, and I'll tell you what the meaning of that is. What this tells us, if it gives us a shortcut. If I really wanted to find f of 1, I would plug in a 1 everywhere I saw an x. And then I would have to add it all up. Well, if you add all this up, it equals -4. It's just a quicker way of, or a different way of getting to evaluate a function. All right, so we've already checked it. I plugged it in, I got -4. Next thing we're going to look at is called the factor theorem. Factor theorem says x minus some number is a factor of the function if and only if f of that number equals 0. So in other words, if my remainder equals 0, it's a factor of that function. So here's what we're going to do. I've got 1 as my x. I'm checking to see if x minus 1 is a factor of x to the 4th minus 1. Okay. So what they did, they took this, set it equal to 0, and got my starting number. Okay. Got my starting number. So if I plug that number in, I should get 0 if x minus 1 is a factor. Oops. So let's do it synthetically. I've got 1x to the fourth, 0x cubed, 0x squared, 0 x's, and a minus 1. Okay? 1 times 1 is 1. I add. 1 times 1 is 1. I add. 1 times 1 is 1. I add. 1 times 1 is 1. I get 0 for a remainder. That tells me that x minus 1 is a factor of x to the fourth minus 1. I got a 0 as a remainder. So really with synthetic division, we really just look at the remainder, that last number we get. If it's a 0, what I divided with is a factor. If it's not a 0, that's my answer when you plug that number into the function. So here's how we're going to use it. We're going to use synthetic division to find f of negative 2. So I've got a 1x to the fourth, a 3, a negative 2, a 5, and a 10. I write all those down. I divide by my negative 2. When I do the synthetic division, I get a negative 16 as my remainder. Negative 16 is my answer. If I run through the synthetic division with you, 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. I add, I get 1. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. I add, I get negative 4. Negative 2 times negative 4 is 8. I add, I get 13. And negative 2 times 13 is negative 26. If I add that to 10, I get negative 16. Now, you can go and check it. You can plug in the negative 2 wherever you see an x. And it should be negative 16. All right, if you're given one factor, you can use synthetic division to factor the whole polynomial. Here's how that works. We're going to factor the polynomial and list the zeros. Okay? Here's our function. Okay? It tells us that 1 0 is 2. So that's how we get started. We've got to have at least 1 to get started with. So I'm going to divide with a 2. I've got a 1. I've got 0x, I got 1x cubed, a 0x squared, a negative 7x, and a 6 as a constant. So I do the math. Bring down my 1. And 1 times 2 is 2. I add, I get 2. 2 times 2 is 4. I add, I get negative 3. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. I add, I get 0. That tells me that x minus 2 is a factor. Okay? X minus 2 is a factor. So I know that x minus 2 is a factor, and what I have left is 1x squared plus 2x minus 3. Well, I can factor that into 2 binomials. My factors of negative 3 that add up to give me 2 are positive 3 and negative 1. So here are my 3 factors. Okay? And if I set each one of those equal to 0, I get 2 for that one, I get -3 for this one, and I'll get 1 for that one. So that tells me that this original function, this function right here, if I graph it, I should be able to see that it crosses the x-axis at those x values. Okay? Moving on. We want to verify the factors, find other factors, write a factorization, and list the zeros. We can do all this with this synthetic division. Okay? It tells me that my factors are x plus 2 and x minus 4. Here's my function. I'm going to be writing down 2, -1, -22, and -24. And I'm going to divide by -2 or a +4. Doesn't matter which one you start with. I started with the 4. So I did the synthetic division. Okay. 4 times 2 is 8. I add, I get 7. 4 times 7 is 28. I add, I get 6. 4 times 6 is 24. I add, I get a 0 as a remainder. I should get a 0 because they told me the factors were x minus 4, and that's what I get. So now I take these numbers and I put them here, and I divide by the other one. And I should get a 0 for remainder there. Okay, -2 times 2 is -4. I add, I get 3. -2 times 3 is -6. I add, I get 0. That proves that both of these are remainders. Or excuse me, both of these are factors because of the remainder of 0. What's the other factor? It's what I have left. Okay. So I have it all factored out now. Here's my factorization, x plus 2, x minus 4. These were given to me, and I figured out what the last one was. That tells me my zeros are -2, +4, and if I set this equal to 0 and solve, I get -3/2. That's the main reason for knowing how to do synthetic division. All right, so as you're practicing today, let me know if you got any questions. I'll be glad to help you. Have a good day.